You need to comply with the HOA regulations immediately. You can't enforce these petty rules on me.
These two wannabe HOA officers really thought they were lions in the neighborhood jungle, but trust me, they were more like wet cats armed with glitter badges from discount websites. And the funniest part? They marched onto my dad's porch like they were kicking off some grand operation. They had no idea who was behind that front door or how badly their day was about to collapse. But before we get to that, let me tell you a quick story because it explains exactly why this whole thing felt like deja vu. Last summer, a delivery guy tried to warn my dad about a mandatory HOA compliance sweep. Dad didn't even look up from his sweet tea. He just said, "Son, this property ain't under nobody's kingdom but mine." The delivery guy froze, whispered good luck, and literally jogged away like he'd just escaped a cult. At the time, I laughed. But looking back now, that was the prequel. The universe was giving us a trailer for the chaos that was coming. Now buckle up. A week before everything blew up, my dad, Mr. Raymond Alder, had just settled into the little home he bought for retirement. Peaceful porch, quiet yard, no drama. And most importantly, we are not under any HOA. Not their district, not their rules, not even their zip code. But you know how power-hungry people behave. They don't need permission. They just need targets. Enter Barbara Flintstone, the HOA president with the personality of expired vinegar. She decided my dad's porch railing disrupted the neighborhood aesthetic, meaning it wasn't the exact shade of beige she liked to bully people with. Then came the letters. Fake ordinances, imaginary fines, threatening notes typed in bold fonts like she ran the FBI of suburban architecture. Dad ignored her politely. And that was her villain origin moment. She sent her HOA enforcer, Brent Mallory, a grown man wearing a plastic badge and a tactical vest that screamed $14.99 online with free shipping. And that's when things took a turn the HOA wasn't ready for. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from and make sure to subscribe to Silent Divide Tales because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Brent Mallory strutted up our porch that first day like a man auditioning for HOA Special Forces. He didn't knock, didn't greet, didn't even breathe normal. He planted his boots on Dad's step and announced, "Sir, you are in violation of multiple HOA codes." Dad blinked at him like he'd just been handed a math problem at gunpoint. "Son, this ain't HOA property." But Brent wasn't the type to let reality ruin his fantasy. He escalated instantly. Fake citations, imaginary fines, and then the most ridiculous threat I've ever heard. Your home may face temporary seizure for enforced beautification. Beautification. The man said it like he was about to remodel the neighborhood with crayons. Can you imagine someone being this confidently wrong? But then he doubled down, and that's when things started to boil. Dad finally told him to leave before he embarrassed himself further, which honestly was generous. But embarrassment must have bruised Brent's ego, because the next morning we found a bright yellow paper slapped onto the porch railing. Mandatory investigation, property non-compliance. Signed by HOA Officer Mallory. Dad called it what it was, trash. He crumpled it and tossed it. And that decision? That's when the real storm rolled in. 2 days later, our ring cam caught something so ridiculous it felt scripted. Brent and another fake HOA officer, a lanky guy named Travis Elwood, sneaking around Dad's windows. They whispered, pointed, snapped pictures, like detectives in a cartoon. Then Brent said the one sentence that made my blood pressure spike. "If he doesn't open the door today, we force it." Force it? Who told these dudes they were running a SWAT team for porch railings? But then, it got worse. The next afternoon, Dad was sitting on the porch sipping sweet tea when Brent and Travis marched up the path again, shoulders puffed, jaws clenched, absolutely convinced they were about to make history. They didn't knock, they didn't speak, they just tried to force the door open. And that's exactly when I stepped into the hallway, watching them through the cracked doorway. They had no idea what was waiting for them on the other side. Dad didn't raise his voice, didn't even stand. He just took a slow sip of his tea and said, "Boys, this is your final warning." And that was my cue. I stepped out onto the porch. Calm, controlled, and absolutely done with these two suburban stormtroopers. Brent and Travis spun around like they'd finally found someone they could assert authority on. Spoiler, they hadn't. "Kid," Brent barked, puffing his chest like a confused rooster. "Step aside. We're entering the property for inspection. I raised one eyebrow. You do realize this house isn't in your HOA or even your zip code? Travis scoffed and tossed out the dumbest line of the day. Everything in a 1 mile radius is under our authority. A 1 mile radius? What did he think this was? The HOA empire? But before I could laugh, things escalated fast. I stepped in front of the doorway. You're not coming inside. Brent twitched. The kind of twitch men get when they're about to make a wildly terrible decision. What did you say? He snapped. I repeated myself slowly. You're not entering my father's house. And Brent completely lost it. He reached behind his back, pulled out a cheap black baton, the kind you buy in a bundle pack online, flicked it open, and charged at me like he'd just unlocked a boss battle. Can you believe someone actually thought this was going to end well for them? But then, it went exactly how you think it did. The moment his foot hit the bottom step, the ring cam chimed, capturing everything. Brent swung wide, sloppy, angry. But he had no idea he was swinging at a trained MMA fighter. I stepped inside the arc, hooked his wrist, twisted. Crack! It echoed like a branch breaking in a quiet forest. Brent dropped instantly, screaming, clutching an arm bent in ways the human body does not allow. Travis panicked exactly the way a man with no plan panics. He lunged with pure desperation. I sidestepped, grabbed the back of his vest, and pulled, sending him face first into the porch plank so hard the ring cam picked up the thud. Dad casually raised his mug and said, "Told y'all, my boy's the one you don't want to meet." And trust me, they were just getting started. Brent tried crawling away, literally dragging his broken arm across the porch like he thought he could escape consequences by sheer determination. "Stay down," I warned. Did he listen? Of course not. He tried to stand, so I placed a boot on his shoulder. Not hard, just enough to keep him from hurting himself even more. His eyes flicked up to the ring cam, blinking like it was a live confession box. No, delete it. Delete it, he begged. Dad didn't even turn his head. Nope, we're sending it straight in. Then a voice called from across the yard. Hey, everything okay over there? It was our neighbor, Miss Ada Whitford, phone raised, eyes wide. The moment she saw Brent's arm bent like a question mark and Travis curled up on the porch, she gasped. I'm calling Sheriff McAllister, she yelled. Travis groaned like he'd been sentenced already. Oh no, not Mac. And a few minutes later, the sound of sirens rolled in, getting louder, sharper, closer. Brent's face went pale, and Travis looked like he wanted to sink into the porch boards forever. 2 sheriff cruisers pulled up. Sheriff Cole McAllister, hat tilted, stepped out with the face of a man deeply tired of nonsense. What in the county fried world happened here? He asked. Miss Ada pointed straight at Brent and Travis. They did it. Fake cops tried to rush the boy. Mac crouched beside Brent. Well, look at this mess. Sheriff, he attacked me, Brent whimpered. Max stared at his bent arm. Son, your arm's pointing to Memphis, and your shoulders headed for Nashville. That's not an attack posture. That's I got folded like laundry. Dad snorted. Mac asked for the ring cam footage, and I showed him everything. The baton, the charge, the lunge, the fall, Mac, the screams, the stupidity. That settles it, Mac said. Both of you, hands where I can see 'em. Deputy Rowan Morales cuffed Travis first, still wheezing. Brent got cuffed with his good hand while Dad handed Mac a towel to sling the broken arm. Then Mac's radio crackled. Sheriff, HOA President Barbara Flintstone approaching your location. Dad sighed. Great, here comes the grand finale. Barbara screeched into the driveway in a black SUV, heels clicking, clipboard swinging. Arrest him, she demanded, pointing at me. He assaulted my officers. Mac blinked. Your what? My officers, she repeated. Ma'am, Mac said, your HOA charter has the same authority as a lemonade stand permit. Brent whimpered. Barbara, do something. She sputtered, pointed, threatened, but Mac had had enough. Barbara Flintstone, you're under arrest for conspiracy, illegal enforcement orders, harassment, and misuse of HOA powers. She actually tried to run. Morales caught her by the elbow before she made it 5 steps. A week later, everything wrapped up fast. Brent, shattered forearm, fractured ribs, 4 years. Travis, aiding assault, 2 years. Barbara, conspiracy plus harassment, 6 years. And that's how a power-drunk HOA trio learned that you don't threaten a man's father, not when his son answers the door. Justice served. Calm delivered. And the porch railing? Still the same color. If you enjoy stories where karma doesn't wait politely, Hit subscribe to Silent Divide Tales because every week someone else learns the hard way.